Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really powerful book, Seth Godin's The Practice. We're going to break down his core ideas and, hopefully, completely demystify what it means to do creative work.
Right out of the gate, Godin hits us with this. It's a radical idea that pretty much flips everything we've been taught about creativity on its head. You know, that whole idea of waiting for lightning to strike, for the muse to show up? He says, nope, forget it. There is no magic.
And yet, it really feels like there's magic, doesn't it? We've all been there, staring at that blank page, feeling like a total fraud, just waiting for some brilliant idea that never seems to come. It's this shared struggle, this block, that holds so many of us back from doing the work we're actually capable of.
So let's start there. Godin basically goes on the attack against this central myth, this idea that we need to wait for a guarantee, for some perfect moment of inspiration. He says these are just convenient stories we tell ourselves. And you know where they lead? Straight to paralysis.
Godin basically calls these the villains of creativity. Writer's block, the need for a guaranteed success, a visit from the muse. He argues these are just well-dressed excuses that let us off the hook. This hunt for certainty, he says, is endless, fruitless, and the end of possibility.
Okay, so if it's not magic, then what is it? What's the alternative? This is where Godin introduces his big idea, his solution, a relentless, stubborn commitment to a process he calls simply the practice.
And here's the crucial part, so listen close. The practice is the output. It's not about the final result. It's about showing up and doing the work. Because that, the process itself, is the only thing we can ever truly control.
Man, this quote just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly captures how a solid process can be our safety net. You know those days when your confidence is shot and you just don't feel like it? The process is what carries you through. It saves you.
Godin explains this with a fantastic analogy about juggling. Think about it. When you learn to juggle, you don't start by trying to catch. No, you start with just one ball, and you only practice the throw. That's it. You throw it and you let it drop, over and over. You just master the throw.
Then once you've got that first throw down, you add a second ball. But the mindset is exactly the same. You just focus on the process. Throw, and you let them both drop. You're still not worried about the outcome, about the catch.
And here's the beautiful part. If you get good enough at the process, at the throwing, guess what happens? The outcome you wanted all along, the catching, it just happens. It takes care of itself. Because the real work, the important part, was always the throw.
All right, you've probably seen this famous internet meme before. It so perfectly captures how we all feel when we're trying to do important work. We get these really simple starting instructions.
And then we get this. It's hilarious, but it's also a powerful point. For any work that really matters, the instructions are always incomplete. We have to be willing to jump into that messy, uncertain middle part and figure out how to draw the rest of the owl for ourselves.
So how do we do that? How do we navigate that uncertainty and draw the rest of the owl? Well, Godin says it starts inside. It starts by changing our internal story and learning to trust ourselves.
This distinction is absolutely critical. We get so hung up on talent, but Godin says talent is just what we're born with. It's our DNA. Skill, on the other hand, that's different. Skill is earned. It's earned through practice, and it's available to anyone who cares enough to show up and put in the work.
And what about that little voice in your head that says you're a fraud, that you don't belong? Godin offers this incredible reframing. He says imposter syndrome isn't a signal to stop. It's actually a sign that you're on the right track. It means you're pushing boundaries, you're innovating, you're doing something new.
So this number, it represents the discard pile of a guy named Drew Durnovich. He's one of the most published cartoonists in The New Yorker. He once posted a picture of his desk, and it was literally buried under a mountain of more than 10,000 rejected cartoons. And this quote just gets right to the heart of it all. Is Drew Durnovich a genius? Maybe, but Godin's point is that his success doesn't come from some innate spark of genius. It comes from his practice. It's about being willing to have a massive discard pile on the way to shipping work that finally connects.
And that commitment, that willingness to produce a lot of work, builds directly into this next idea, developing the mindset of what Godin calls the generous professional.
A true professional, he says, makes a choice. If you try to serve everyone, to please the masses, your work becomes average. You sand off all the interesting edges. But when you choose to serve someone, a specific audience with a specific need, that's when you can create work that is peculiar, that is specific, and that is truly remarkable.
And you know what professionals do? They don't fight against constraints. They embrace them. A tight deadline, a tiny budget, a difficult format. These aren't problems. Godin says these are the very things that generate the tension that creativity needs to thrive.
Ultimately, this is what it means to be a professional. And notice, it has nothing to do with getting paid. It's an attitude. It's a commitment to your craft, to your process. It's about showing up to do the generous work of making change happen, even and especially when you're just not in the mood.
If you take away just one thing from this explainer, please let it be this. We have it completely backwards. We don't ship work because we feel creative. We become creative because we ship the work. Creativity isn't a mood you wait for. It's an action. It's the result of building a habit.
The legendary high-wire walker Carl Wallenda understood this better than anyone. The work, the art, the real impact, it all happens up there, on the wire. That's where the risk is, sure, but it's also where life is. Everything else is just waiting. The practice is our choice to step out onto that wire.
And that's the question Godin leaves us with. And it's the one I'll leave with you. It's a challenge to look at your own work, your own art, your own life, and ask, are you engaging in the practice? Are you doing the generous work that matters? Are you on the wire, or are you still standing on the platform, just waiting?